Hello, Internet. We are here on the next episode of Binge Watch, and this time we're revisiting a film, I believe, that came out in 2016 called The Train to Busan, which is a zombie movie, a Korean zombie movie that's currently playing on Netflix right now. We're revisiting this film is because the sequel, well, it's not a direct sequel. It's called Peninsula, but it's called Train to Busan Presents Peninsula. So it's not a direct sequel, but it is a sequel. It comes from the same universe, from the same director, Sung Ho Yoon, who directed Train to Busan, the first one, and he is directing the second one. And the second one comes out this Friday, in fact, both in drive-in theaters, movie theaters, and on Shudder. So that's something to look forward to. But we are here not to discuss Peninsula, but we are here to do a spoiler review of Train to Busan that actually came out a few years ago. I'm Patta. I'm a writer here at LRM Online. I'll let my co-host introduce himself.
I'm Emmanuel, Manny Gomez, also writer for LRMOnline.com.
All right. So let's go ahead and get started with the first impressions. And just to admit it, for clarity's sake, I did not watch this film 3 or 4 years ago. I actually watched it just recently, back in April, when I was actually sick with the coronavirus, and I don't know why. For that month, I was on a binge of watching every single zombie movie out there. I guess when I actually was sick, I felt like I needed to watch pandemic movies just to make me feel. So Manny, what was your first impression of Train to Busan?
Yeah, full disclosure, I think it's been just less than a month since I first watched this movie, and it wasn't by any means because I pulled it up and wanted to watch it. It's a movie that my girlfriend actually saw a really good review for, and she's a very big on zombie genre and same thing with just the horror genre in general. So. It's curious when you give a film with that kind of title, and it's a Korean horror zombie film, and it's on Netflix, but it's getting these rave reviews. It took about 2 or 3 days of her asking me to watch it to finally go, okay, yeah, let's watch it. And so we did, and man, that was quite the surprise there.
It's kind of funny was because for all these different years, I didn't watch Train to Busan either. And that's just because I didn't want to watch a movie with subtitles.
Oh, is that the problem?
Yeah, and that was an issue. And while it's not, that was part of the problem. The other problem was the idea of a bunch of zombies in a very confined space seemed very freaky to me. And so that probably was one of the biggest factors why I didn't watch it, previously and waited till 2020 to actually watch it. Especially the fact that if you saw the trailers for Peninsula, it looks pretty scary and awesome. So that would push you to watch Train to Busan to see what it's all about. And for you, apparently did your girlfriend saw it before you did, or you saw it at the same time?
No, we saw it at the same time. She saw it. She was like, "Hey, let's watch this," and so one night after dinner, we watched it, and thoroughly enjoyed it.
Thoroughly enjoyed it. Well, let's talk about the film. So, I want to say this film was about 90% on the train. Is that an accurate assessment?
Yes, I'd say so, because they make one stop in the middle, and then the maintenance yard near the end, and then at the beginning, I don't even know if you can count that. It's just setting up.
Yeah, it's just setting up everything, right, at the train station. What did you think about setting the whole setting on a train in the first place?
I thought it sounded ridiculous, especially because this is zombies have been hit over the head for years now, because it was a thing for a while, thanks to like The Walking Dead, 28 Days Later, But it's been done. Zombies have been done over and over and over again. So now it was like zombies on a train. It's like, really, zombies on a, I don't know how you're going to be able to really uh, creatively bring something together, put something together that's really going to be captivating with zombies on a train. Like what are you really going to do in a confined space with zombies? And so I really went into watching the film and watching this idea of zombies on a train with very low expectations.
That's actually interesting. Just because I also had low expectations, and that's because there was a movie that kind of gave me like a bad aftertaste called Snakes on the Plane.
Yeah, we talked about that too.
Okay,
Yeah.
where you're just confined in the air inside a jumbo jet, with snakes that could actually poisonous snakes that could actually kill you, at every corner. So
Hmm.
the concept of like zombies on the train to me was either it was going to be something like it was going to be snakes on the plane where it's just utterly ridiculous, or it could be somewhat cool, like a snow piercer type of thing where people were like at the back of the train trying to get to the front.
Hmm.
And in its own way, it wasn't snakes on the plane. It became more of a snow piercer where they were just
Right.
trying to barge forward from car to car,
Hmm.
and that was the confined space because I felt the claustrophobia. I
Oh
I
yeah.
I actually did. I actually felt like at every turn, because of the seats, because of all the number of zombies, because of the people, like how these people are going to survive, that kind of stuff. And they can't even stop the train, because
No.
if you stop the train, it's even worse outside.
Yeah, it turns out it is.
So I guess that's one of the things. What do you think of the zombies themselves?
I thought
That
they were.
that they were fast zombies.
Yeah, I don't recall seeing fast. The last time I seen zombies like that, I think probably was World War Z. I haven't, or I'm probably there's probably two or three movies in between there that I'm leaving out. But usually you
Wasn't
kind
like
of see that
28 Days Later also fast zombies, or
28 days later. Yeah,
yeah,
has fast zombies too.
yeah.
Yeah. They I So what I really liked about it was the creative way that they had people turn. Uh, it, I thought that they had really good um I don't know what you want to call them, contortionists, or
Oh yeah.
the people who, when as they were turning, I found it to be very interesting. It wasn't just a sit up, or just kind of, instead of just your traditional kind of way that they turned. This was very very gradual and very visual. You can see the body violently make a turn for the worst, and then all of a sudden, boom, zombie, and that's, you got to move, you got to make a decision. Then it's not going to come at you very very slowly and kind of let you almost plan your way out of it. No, you got to go. So I thought it was good. I liked it. It was creative.
I can't recall how fast did the zombies turn in World War Z? I don't remember the.
Oof. I
That was
do not
pretty
remember.
fast,
It
right?
was it was pretty quick, yeah, because I remember while they were on the streets of the town they were in, they people were turning left to right. They made it to the building, and it was just quick, and then it was just hordes, 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 hordes. So yeah, it must have been very, very quickly. Also,
Yeah, but it wasn't like as terrifying to watch the zombie turn as in Train to Busan, right? Because
no, train,
I think World War Z they just turn,
right?
and
Yeah.
and
So
they just came after you. And I think in
yeah,
this one you actually see them like move
yeah,
their wrists and
super
neck.
contort and just, yeah.
Yeah.
Even the deer in the beginning was just like crack, 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 and it was like,
Oh, that's right. There was
yeah.
a zombie deer, which
Hmm.
good thing deers can't bite anybody because they're vegetarians.
Not anymore.
Now every movie has their own zombie rules, and in this movie, I'm not going to get to the zombie rules in the sequel because I've seen the sequel. You have not seen the sequel
Not
yet,
yet,
but
no.
the rule that they did actually apply in Train to Busan is the fact that the zombies won't attack you if they cannot see you.
Hmm.
Okay, so darkness does actually play, you know, a huge part of this. Blocking windows plays a huge part of this. What did you think about those rules?
I thought that they were consistent with their rules at least, because there's some movies that are really good at breaking them in between shots because something changes and you can't, and then just for the scene purposes all of a sudden you don't have a rule. But I thought the fact that they're able to get away from zombies before they find this out, and then they figure out, wait, if they can't see us, then they don't attack. Then they find a different creative way to get around them, and vice versa. How to kind of, if they find a confined space, they're able to block areas and then not be trampled or take a break. It was a nice gradual process to be able to do things differently instead of the same way all the way through the film. And then it makes sense also in the middle of the film. It's like middle of the day, super bright, so all these zombies are super active. And but it was good. It was a little bit different. It's a little bit more of this. I mean, you can only you can't really reinvent the wheel. It's an undead trying to eat. But yeah, it was a good nifty rule, specifically because if you're dealing with the train, you're also going to be dealing with tunnels. So it's a great way to put that into your plot. It's like, oh yeah, while they go through these tunnels, they're going to have this much time to try and make their move.
Yeah, I did find that this was not exactly an original zombie movie. We have done so many zombie
Mm-hmm.
movies that we virtually ran out of ideas. Not to mention that, sure, this is a zombie movie. Sure, it's on a train. Sure, they eat people. Sure, people turn. But I want to talk about is the strength of this movie. The strength of the movie is actually the human characters that I find. Okay. And for some unknown reason, you could always introduce so many different characters, but for this film, the characters, how I want to say Sang Ho Yun directed this film, he somehow managed to give us an emotional connection with every single character, including the
Mm-hmm.
villain, which I'm going to
Mm-hmm.
go ahead and admit. I don't know if you found it the same way, because I was like literally was about to shed tears every single time someone goes down in this film.
Yeah, it was a brilliant way of directing it and writing it, because yeah, for a while there are some scenes where I forget completely about the zombies, and then you get towards the latter part of it, and all of a sudden I don't care about the zombies. I care about this jerk guy who wants to save himself because he feels like he's worth so much more than everyone else, and that to me was the real villain of the film. And I was like, wow, but I mean, you had like a high school baseball team, you had a couple, you had the dad with the daughter, of course, the main characters. Then you also had the two older ladies. I'm not sure if they were sisters or just
They
best
were
friends for a
sisters.
long time. Sisters,
Yeah,
okay.
they were sisters.
And I mean, just how the moment I knew that this was something different was when the baseball player started dying or turning, and I felt uh, like we had lost a key figure of the film. But they gave us just enough um, to care about everyone, and some more than others. But you cared about everyone. It almost became, it's like, wow, I don't want anyone to die.
Well, let's start with some of the characters first. I believe let's start with the most minor one. So you brought it up. There was a baseball player. Okay, and I believe there was also like a girl who was like a cheerleader or something like that. That was also on there. They
Yeah.
they kind of liked each other, or something
Hmm.
like that. And the baseball player is played by Woo Sik Choi, which a lot of people will recognize him as the kid from the Parasite movie.
Oh,
Okay,
okay.
and the girl, I believe her name is Sohee, and
Hmm.
she is actually a K-pop star in Korea.
Hmm.
So these two are very very well known Korean people and so on. What I liked about this was that it was sort of like a questionable relationship. They're sort of like kind of friends and so on. And as the entire story progresses, somehow like a tragedy, like a zombie apocalypse, like creates this romantic link,
Yeah.
to the point that as this is a spoiler review, they perished, and it was like so sad
Yeah.
in its own way. What did you think about those two characters being
I
played out?
love their development. Just they gave us nuggets of little information as the movie went on, and so at first you're kind of like, oh, this is just kind of fill in things, and it's you know they're gonna like you're like, yeah, they're gonna die because just high school kids, what do they know?
Yeah.
And so you didn't really give them necessarily too much of a chance. Me myself though, I didn't really know who she was. Maybe if you're watching it, you know, and you know what of the K-pop star that she is, maybe you're like, oh yeah, she's gonna, you know, something's gonna have a bigger role. But for me, they were just kind of side characters that were going to die, and then giving us just little bits of information as the plot goes, as the movie moved forward. Yeah, it led to their demise together to be so tragic and such a great love story that I found myself very confused. I was like, wow, like these two, I care that much? Okay, all right. And so that kind of it was kind of a warning of things to come too, and just like, hey, just emotionally prepare yourself because it's not going to get any better.
Now, you brought it up earlier. Let's talk about these two other characters where I don't really know their names, but it's the two old ladies who happen to be sisters. So basically, the premise is that they somehow got separated, one to the front of the train, one to the back of the train, and the group is just trying to basically bring the sister that from the back of the train to the front of the train through all these zombies and so on. And there was a very important scene where they just wouldn't the humans wouldn't let them through because, you know,
Mm-hmm.
this is the part that I found it very fascinating, is because if you were a survivor and there was a zombie apocalypse, like zombies unfolding, and you see other survivors coming through down the train, would you actually open the door for them? Because the thing is, you are scared for your life. And
Mm-hmm.
the answer is, I know all these people are like no name, you know, non characters, but truthfully, in most situations, no one would open the door to any more survivors because, you know, if you see a whole bunch of zombies like charging right behind them,
Yeah.
what are you gonna do?
Mm-hmm.
So I thought that was a very realistic, you know, survivalist instinct that they actually portrayed in the film. I thought it was very sad that the sister would actually get killed, but I thought it was very rewarding that the other sister basically threw her arms up, knowing that her twin sister got killed, and said, "You know what? Let's all fucking die." And then what did she do? She
She opens
opened
the
that
door.
door to to lead that huge slaughter. What do you think about that development?
So to comment on what you said, you know, I would like to sit here and obviously say the right things that I would always, you know, try to help my fellow man. But if I really thought about it, if I'm on that surviving side of the train, and hypothetically speaking, I have my daughter with me, am I really going to? It's one thing to risk my life, but am I going to risk her life?
Yeah,
Am I going to? And then again, am I going to risk the other people's lives in that room? There's a certain responsibility, but I feel also that those people did have a scapegoat in the I guess we were calling the villain. I think his name was Yon Suk. Uh,
yeah, Yeon
correct
Suk,
me if I'm Yon. Yeah.
Yeon Suk,
So
played by
they're
Yu Sung Kim.
oh yes. So with them being able, with him being so vocal and forward and pushy, I think a lot of people were able to kind of hide behind him and not necessarily step up to say what they believed, even if it was the right or wrong decision. But then again, who's to say what is the right or wrong decision? As far as the sisters, I thought they were really important in the movie because they're twin sisters. They were riding together, and kind of they die together with the way it ended up. But they both had very, very opposite paths to get there.
Hmm.
One of them saw it from the point of view of the safe survivors that really didn't go through anything. They all they really suffered was at that moment where she opened the door, and but they were making selfish decisions, while the other sister had to battle her way through with the rest of the cast and make selfless decisions along the way. And then how both of them end up at the same place and end up having the same fate.
Absolutely. And then since you, it's a nice transition because you brought up the villain, um, Yon Suk, he's basically like this corporate suit guy
Mm-hmm.
who all he is very selfish. He wants to save his own life. He will do anything to get away from the zombies, sacrificing anybody
Mm-hmm.
to do it, and so on, without really thinking twice. And one of the biggest thing about him is every action he performs ends up killing somebody. Now, why I personally think that this was a perfect villain was because anybody could be in those shoes. And anybody I could see would work that way to basically survive on their own and willing to sacrifice anything and everybody else in order to put themselves to live. So I don't really fault the villain at all, because that villain could be anybody. And in fact, that's what I thought, he was the perfect villain. And that's because in this entire film, it basically portrayed the humanity of everybody trying to survive. And he is probably the villain in this movie, but I would say most people would probably fit that role.
Yeah, I think you're right. It's he's just the embodiment of human nature. It's something that we're seeing right now with the current state of the world with this pandemic. You see people act differently than what they would every day.
Hmm.
But because all of a sudden there's more on the line. Now there's health issues, work issues, social issues, and all this come together. It stirs the pot so much that it kind of takes people to just the basic instincts of survival, kind of to be a little extreme, of course, but still, but you see it. You're supposed to do what they're at. Somebody asks you to do one thing, but your nature says to do another thing, and that's why we are where we are. That's what I was saying. But you see him, and all he wants to do is get off this train. I want to go home. I want whatever I got to do, and it's a perfect fit for him because as a suit, he's used to pushing people around. He's used
Yeah.
to just making the phone call and somebody gets it done for him. And
Yeah.
so
Yeah.
so he's just doing the same thing, except now he's just doing it with people he doesn't know. But he feels entitled because of it, and so he has no problem with it.
Yeah, I mean what was that scene? It was the where he was inside the bathroom with the train conductor, and they were supposed to run out in the hallway together, and he just pushes the train conductor
Yeah, he
to,
does.
to the hordes of
Mhm.
zombies. I mean, that was like that was actually a pretty good scene. I think that was a great scene. The next couple that we want to talk about is I believe they were husband and wife, right? It's this large
Yeah.
burly Asian guy named Sanghua, and the wife I believe is Xiang Kyung, and they basically were both on the train. They got separated and so on, and the guy, I found the guy very, very good. It was a great character because he was like a burly fighter. He was like just pummeling, fist after fist against zombies. He was just barreling through, and I'm sorry, I wanted to cheer for him. I wanted to see him kick every single zombie ass on that train. Alas, any noble fighter, they have to sacrifice themselves. So we kind of all saw that coming. But I thought he was a great character. The wife, on the other hand, I don't. I thought she was just sort of like a heroine who was just going to survive. I kind of saw that they didn't really do too much for her until towards the end.
Hmm.
But that's how I saw that couple. What did you see?
Yeah, if you enjoyed his performance, Dong Sigma, he's actually gonna be playing Gilgamesh in the Eternals,
Oh,
for Marvel, which was a fun fact that I found out. So, because I immediately looked up other films he was in because I thought, like, well, he played the husband, the caring, to be father very very well from the very beginning. Set him up that way when his wife's in the bathroom and he's just trying to calm her down, calm people down around her. Like, hey, this is the situation. He's really straightforward, but he's very protective also of what's his, and also he empathizes very very well. I mean, the couple almost immediately take the main character's daughter under their wing as one of their own,
mm-hmm.
and just the sarcasm, his sarcasm also throughout the film adds a little bit of comedy too. Some of the comments he makes to the dad, and then you just like fall for him little by little as the movie goes on. And then I don't know if it was meant to be just to make it a lighter tone, but that jacket he was wearing, that blue jacket he was wearing, I thought that was funny. Just just trying to look very sleek for a really big burly guy. And then as for the wife, I really thought that her and the daughter, the little girl, were kind of the embodiment of hope for the film, to something to look forward to in the future. As she's bringing in they want to protect her at all costs because she's bringing in new life
Mm-hmm.
into the world. And then same thing with the little girl, she has to grow up uh, despite this. So it may be over for some of these people, but let's give the future a chance with these two. And so I thought that's kind of what symbolism with that was, just
The
there,
symbolism of hope, huh?
of hope, yeah, for something better in the future despite the current situation. And I think also that's why the survivors ended up who they were, because we're gonna end up having to look ahead. We can't worry about the now.
Yeah. And I guess that leads us to the last characters, which you kind of thoroughly talked about was the daughter of Suan, uh,
Hmm.
who basically survives. But also that we have to talk about is the father, who's the main character, Suk Woo, who's played by Yoon Gong. I thought that character was also a well-developed character because he was sort of like a single father
Hmm.
that was basically trying to, settle all this, and trying to help his daughter survive. And he was going through his own issues, as like one of the things is when the zombie outbreak, he actually heard his own mother die over the phone,
Hmm.
and he basically tried to genuinely be a hero and try to save whatever survivors he could gather, to the front of the train. I thought that was actually a pretty good character. I was cheering him on, um, all the way to the end, and I thought that was a well developed character in my opinion. What about you?
I agree with you. At first, I hated him. He buys his daughter the same gift twice. It's an expensive gift, and he doesn't even recognize that he's already bought that for her, which spoke to about how much time he was spending with her, or how much attention he was really paying to her. But he developed so well throughout the movie that it was ridiculous to end up where we were and to have that kind of connection with him at the end after what we had seen in the beginning. And it's almost a 2-hour film, but in 2 hours we really fell for the guy, and something that some of the characters in the film, like the couple, Sang Hua, and his wife and the such, also had to change their views of him, because he was kind of a dick in the beginning. he tried to keep Sang Hua from the cabin in the back, and he locked the door in front of him. It took a couple of people really begging for him to open the door again,
Yeah.
and to then see them later working together side by side to get the rest of the passengers up to the front of the train. It was really, really good. It was great to see that kind of development in a character. It wasn't just like a static, this is who he is, and all of a sudden he's a hero. We saw this nice little journey on a train, mind you, and the station briefly, and it's just really, really well done.
Was this film really 2 hours? Because it didn't feel like 2 hours. I thought the movie felt like maybe like an hour and 15 minutes or something like that. Because
No, it is. I think let me just double check that. Hopefully I'm not wrong. 1 hour 58 minutes. Yeah.
1 hour 58 minutes.
Yeah.
I could tell you that this film is so tense on the edge of your seat that it does not feel like a 2 hour film, because I don't recall there was being sort of like a downtime.
There was not a lull moment. No. I mean,
Yeah.
if anything, the lull moments were really suspenseful. Like when they get to that first stop and they get off, and everyone, and it's just quiet, and you're just waiting for something to pop off, and eventually it does, but because of the very fast pace, and just the fact that it's in a train, it's in motion, everything's fast, so when everything stops, you're kind of not you're uncomfortable, because you're like, okay, there's something here. You just gotta wait for it. So.
Yeah, I do know that was the train station where they were going to go see the military.
Yeah.
Themselves, and
they saw the military.
Yeah. All I could say was everyone saw that coming except for the people in the movie.
Yeah. Yeah. If you weren't greeted by somebody in the beginning, you should have knew something was up.
Right? It's just one of those things. Like if your train stop at a train station and there's nobody there, that's almost like a Resident Evil moment, right? Like everyone's dead.
Yeah, definitely.
That's one of the presumption. Okay, well.
Well, before we move on, I know this character might actually fly under the radar, but I thought he was a super interesting character. Was the homeless guy?
Oh, okay. Yeah.
I wanted to get your opinion on what you thought of him.
He was. It was kind of funny. It's because I didn't think he belonged there in the first place. Like, how did the homeless guy get on the train? How in the world no one mistaken him for a zombie? He was he was sort of like a character that just managed to get very lucky in my opinion, until the end. But I think he was the weakest character. We could probably do without him, but maybe you think different. Maybe he was an important cog in the system, right?
Well, not really necessarily important, but I was rooting. I found myself rooting for him the whole time.
Oh, really?
Because if he's as homeless as if he's homeless, sorry, not as homeless. If he's homeless, he's had to be very resourceful. He knows how to survive just the regular day, everyday world. So just being adaptive and taking what you can get. And in this case, if he stowed away on the train, the wrong train, obviously, but just the fact that he was limping also, and some of the times where he was trying to run back on the train and things like that, or when he almost fell behind, they actually went back and get him, but it was dark. That was really cool. I mean, he served a purpose in the end. He's yeah, you're right. If you took him out of the movie, there's nothing much there like that you're missing. But I still felt that he was just kind of almost a fun character because you could root for him, unlike the villain. Like, you want the homeless guy to survive. After seeing him go through what he did with the rest of the cast, I was rooting for him. So it made his demise for me just a little bit more meaningful, because he was a part of surviving, and here he is. He also has to sacrifice himself.
Yeah, but for me, I didn't find too much character development for him from the beginning of the movie to the end of the movie. He was a survivalist at the beginning of the movie. He was a survivalist at the end of the movie.
Yeah,
there was
what he does.
Yeah, I mean, I guess I guess I was like rooting for everybody, but I completely, kind of like pushed him to the back, and if I was on that train, I probably would be the first one to push him off the train, that kind of stuff.
Mhm.
But that is an interesting point, though. For this film, every single character you're going to root for them one way or another,
Right.
and that's the beauty of a Train to Busan. So let's go ahead and do our final grades. What's your final grade for Train to Busan and the real overall impression?
I'm gonna go ahead and give it a solid A.
A solid A.
Hmm. Solid A.
Wow, that's not leaving much room. Anything above an A.
But for the type of movie that it was, for the expectations that it holds, and then to deliver that kind of character development, and to be able to watch it with subtitles, and for its length, and to be interested all the way through, it has to be a pretty well done movie, I think. So just for all those things put together, there's nothing more I could want from the film. I think even if you can consider like a B-list zombie movie, it's not perfect, but it's just great.
Okay, well, I will give my assessment. I didn't think this was an original zombie film, but how the director executed was terrifying. How the character's development was emotionally attachment for us from the viewers. How the story actually unfolded, the claustrophobia that was actually inputted. I want to say that this was one of the scariest zombie movies, and I'm going to call it out here right now that it is probably in my top 3 zombie movies of all time.
Wow. Okay.
Okay, but obviously I am not as generous as you in giving good grades, because obviously I don't think it's an original movie, but that's a small flaw. I'm actually going to give it an A minus.
Okay. All right. No, as long as you're at an A. If you would have gone anything lower than a B, I think even a B as a harsh critic as you could be, I would have accepted it. But an A minus,
No,
good.
I'm giving it an A minus, and that's because of the character development.
Oh
It
yeah,
was it's
definitely.
one of those few movies, especially it's hard to do in a horror movie, is where you could actually develop the characters where you want to cheer on and you want every single character to survive. Heck,
Hmm.
I was even cheering. I was hoping that even the villains survive, because you kind of feel like where he's coming from. You kind of
Yeah.
you and every single person in that car, all those nameless people, who's just like side victims and so on. You kind of wanted everybody to survive for some unknown reason, and
Hmm.
and somehow the director here managed to pull that off, and I think that was actually a great move. And not only that, the zombies. I don't know about you. I have probably seen dozens and dozens of zombie movies, but this zombie movie was probably one of the most terrifying zombie movies I have ever seen. And I could picture in my head like those zombie movies that those zombies are like crawling on the floor of a train with their fingers and ankles, just crawling at a very fast pace, faster than you could actually run down the train. That image is like totally embedded in my mind, and I do think it is one of the best zombie movies out there, and I'm not saying it's it's like it is one of the best, but and I find it better than a zombie movie like World War Z, and I
Yeah.
also find it better than 28 Days Later, which I kind of fell asleep and got bored in. So
Oh, okay.
and it's way better than any Resident Evil movie. So,
Yeah, those
so
didn't pan out too well.
yeah. So I do want to give it an A minus. Not I couldn't give it a solid A because I feel that it would be perfection. But if it was something more original, if they actually came up with like original rules about the zombies or like different new type of zombies or something like that that we have never seen before,
Hmm.
then I would probably give it a solid A. But I do give it a solid A minus, and that's because I believe this is a zombie movie to watch.
I will say though, it did come out 4 years ago, so we're a little bit. It's a little bit closer to when everyone was doing zombies. So, well, I mean, 4 years ago. Where were we in
I think
2006?
Walking Dead was done like 9, 10 years ago.
Yeah, oh, yeah, that show's been done, and they're still doing it. They're going to keep those zombies alive as long as they
Yeah, yeah.
can. Yeah, yeah, I know, I understand that, but at the same time, for that reason, I also find strength in it because how many times can you do a zombie movie and then watch one and go, whoa, that's completely different? Because I mean, there's so many B movies, C movies. I mean, Shudder and Netflix have just a ton of them on themselves there. That or Sci-Fi, I think, has a couple of them too. That just beating the dead horse of the genre, and for someone to make something that interesting and something that with great character development, I thought was great. But then again, that might be the way to go. So yeah, it's a zombie film, but the main attraction aren't the zombies; it's the characters.
Okay. And before we end this, obviously I have seen Peninsula. Train to Busan presents Peninsula. So I'm not going to spoil anything here because you and I hopefully will get to do a spoiler review
Hmm.
for Peninsula. But you haven't seen Peninsula yet. What are your expectations for that film?
No, I'm not sure. So it's funny because I went into this film with low expectations, and now because of this movie's how well done it was, I don't have high expectations for Peninsula. I cannot see somebody. Um, I don't care how good of a writer you are. I don't see magic being caught in the bottle twice. It's just too hard. It might be compelling just because it's in the same world, and maybe you're able to tell a good story. But it'll be a good story. Maybe probably not as great as this. But uh, definitely going into the theater or VOD or
Or Shudder?
wherever I'm watching it, Shutter,
Shudder.
with a lot lower expectations now. So, but that leaves room for being surprised and for enjoying the film a little bit more.
Yeah, I will go ahead and leave it at that because all I could say is that it's very hard for lightning to strike twice at the same spot.
That's what I meant to say.
Yeah, and Train to Busan was a perfect lightning bolt, and
Mhm.
I do have to admit that. So, anyways, everybody, like, comment, subscribe to our our commentary about Train to Busan, and we'll see you next time, and hopefully we'll revisit or bring up a new movie that we will all enjoy and watch. Until next time, just don't get bitten by a zombie, right?
No.
Excellent.